Rogers not having a very good Christmas, but a very lazy one.
Yes, IRD have been active out there again, and they've caught a couple of retailers up north who pocketed over $2.5 million worth of cash and never declared the income tax or the GST on it. And as IRD said, it was a blatant case of failing to pay your tax and paying their fair share. So they went after them big time, got hauled up before the judge. They only got between 2 and 3 years each though as a prison term.
Do they have to do retribution?
There was no mention of it, but it made it clear that they'd benefited big time. They paid off a $380,000 mortgage in 2 years using this cash. So I'd suspect at some point IRD will go after the assets as well.
How can people not learn, Kerry, seriously?
Well, they've probably figured that they had cash, they could get away with it. They had 4 retail stores, so they probably thought if we take a little bit out of each, no one's ever going to notice. But the figures don't stack up in terms of the ratios, etc. that IRD kept, so they got caught.
And it's pretty obvious if you start buying boats and paying off mortgages and you've got so much income.
Exactly, yes.
It's not rocket science.
No, it's not. And I've got a feeling that someone might have also had a bit of a word to IRD about it, because for them to just sort of go guns and nails like this, they went big time. And they got them, which is good.
$2.5 million.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a heads up for people that, you just can't get away with it. IRD do know what's going on, and they will get you one way or another.
Yeah, it's only time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's like drink driving. It's only time.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Speaking of drink driving and holiday time.
Yeah, we've got the Christmas holidays obviously coming up, and so for farm employees it gets a little bit tricky because we've got Boxing Day and New Year's Day now falling on a Saturday. So under the legislation it gets moved to the Monday. So as an employer, you've got to look at what staff you've got on when and who's working what days, because your payroll does get a bit more complicated.
And how does that work? You get a time and a half and a day off in lieu.
Yeah, well, the first step you've got to work out is whether they actually normally work the Saturday. So if they normally work the Saturday and you give them a day off, that's their public holiday. But if they don't work the Saturday, then they'd have their Monday as the public holiday.
Right.
So that's your first step. And after that, then if they work on a public holiday and it's their normal day, they get time and a half and a day in lieu. And that's mandatory under the legislation.
Yeah, that's right. But you've got to be onto it.
Yeah, you've got to do it right. And one of the key things is you can't alter your roster to take people off on a Saturday that normally work, so that you can avoid the public holiday. If they normally work a Saturday, they should still be, in theory, rostered on for that Saturday.
Yeah, and contractors as well.
Contractors doesn't really matter.
If they want to work,
if they want to work, that's up to them. You don't have to worry about it. You just pay them whatever their invoice is. It's your staff that you've got to watch the most. Yeah,
okay. Now tell me about this tax scam that seems to be out there.
Well, there's the online scammers getting far more clever now. They're creating websites that look like IRD, and so people have been hooked into them, filling in their details, and of course the scammers run away with and start ripping them off. Also the emails that are coming out now, we've seen a recent one this week that came out, and it's almost bang on what IRD would send out. The only difference was the email address. So if people are getting emails, they need to make sure that email address that it's come from ends in the ird.gov.nz. If it ends in anything else, then you know straight away it's a dodgy one.
So it's ird.govt.nz.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you can't spoof that.
No, it's a legitimate domain that no one else can actually take. You've got to be able to send it from there to have it. But the one that came in this week, it was pretty close. It had one different letter, so it was ire.gov.nz. So it almost looked right. Our client was onto it and sent it through to us and said, hey, look, I've got this, what do you reckon? And if you just took it at first glance, yeah, it was pretty much kosher if you just looked at it that way.
Even if there's no doubt, you should still really quite check if you get an IRD email.
Yeah, the only time they'll send you an email is if you actually given them your email address. So if you haven't actually told IRD your email address, then there's no way they'll email you. So that's the first thing, have I done it? If I'm not sure, ring your accountant or send the email to them and say, hey, look,
just forward it on to your accountant.
Yeah, and then we can tell you straight off whether it's good or bad. And we actually need to send them on to IRD as well. They have a special email address that they try and trap all these, because they try and shut them down as fast as they get them.
Yeah, but as quick as they shut one down, 2 more pop up.
Exactly, and they just keep coming and coming. But IRD have also now created a victim support page.
Oh, all right.
So if you have been scammed, you can go to their page and find out what you need to do, and they've got some guidance there for you.
But see, I mean, it's this computer age. I did personal story, but I paid money off my phone account, and it was credited to a phone account that I had probably about 10 years ago.
Yep.
And so they got quite grumpy because I hadn't paid their money. And I said, I did pay the money, it's on my... So,
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that even though we're computerised, all sorts of things can go wrong.
Oh yeah, it does, and that raises another one with IRD as well, is that if you've got an old bank account listed with them, they'll start paying refunds out of that bank account. So you need to make sure you give them an up-to-date bank account. We're going through the process at the moment with IRD, just updating all our clients.
Yeah.
And you'll find in the next sort of 3-4 months, a lot of accountants are going to be saying, what's your bank account that you want your refunds paid into? You're not going to have much of a choice because IRD are getting away from cheques. But if they do have an old one, and we've had a recent one where we had a $6,000 refund paid out to an account that someone had 8 or 9 years ago that we didn't even know about, and of course the account didn't exist, the money went out, and a couple of days later bounced back, and the client was like, where's my money? Well,
yeah, so there is so much, Kerry, that we've got to think about, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, who would have thought? Yeah.
Yeah, the electronic age has made it a lot more, you've got to be more cautious basically, and keep everything right up to date and be on your guard all the time.
That's where, very briefly, that's where something like TriTech comes in.
Yes, yeah, well, we can make sure it's all done the right way. You get your GST filed on time, which is a key nowadays, and gives you a good record.